let's talk about something I think a lot of us have been through: the modern long-distance relationship. It's this huge paradox, right? We have all this amazing technology that's supposed to keep us connected, but does it actually bring us closer? Or, does it just create a whole new kind of distance?
And that's really the question, isn't it? In this crazy, hyper-connected digital world, can technology truly bring two hearts closer? That's what we're going to dig into today. Let's try and unpack this whole modern dilemma.
So, we're going to start with what I call the illusion of technology. It's this big promise, right? That all these apps and video calls are just going to erase the miles, make it feel like your person is right there with you. But, and this is a big but, a lot of the time it feels more like a trick, like a really clever illusion instead of a real, genuine connection. I mean, think about it. We can see them on a screen. We can message them any time of day or night. But can we truly connect? That's the paradox in a nutshell. We're talking all the time, we're constantly in touch, but that deep feeling of closeness, it just seems to slip right through our fingers. It's weird, but sometimes it can feel like the more you text, the weaker that bond actually gets.
This really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you have the promise of technology in a long-distance relationship, this idea of constant, unbroken connection. But on the other side, you've got the reality, which is often this nagging, persistent feeling of emotional disconnect. Something really essential just gets lost in translation when we're living our lives through screens. And that illusion of connection, well, it leads us right into our next big problem. These conversations that just feel incomplete. You know the ones I'm talking about. All the words are there, you're technically communicating, but the real feeling, the emotion that's supposed to be behind it all, it's just missing. So there's this really interesting concept for this, and it has nothing to do with your Wi-Fi. It's not a technological delay. It's a delay in the heart. Let's call it emotional latency. And honestly, this might be the true villain of long-distance communication. It's that tiny, but massive, gap between the moment you read a message and the moment you actually feel the emotion that was supposed to come with it.
I love this quote because it's so true. The words arrive, but the feeling doesn't. Just think about that. You get a text that says, "I miss you." It shows up on your phone instantly. But that warmth, that little ache in your chest that's supposed to come with those words, so often that just gets lost somewhere in the digital void. We read the message, sure, but we don't always feel the person behind it. And this emotional latency, this gap, it has real-world consequences. Because you're talking all the time, your expectations get higher, but the quality of that connection is actually going down. It's so easy to miss the nuance in a text message. Misunderstandings start popping up all over the place. And slowly over time, this really painful sense of disconnect just starts to grow. So what happens in that void? What happens in that space that this disconnect creates? Well, that's where our deepest anxieties start to bubble up. And we're not talking about little worries here. We're talking about really powerful, deep-seated fears that are born specifically from being apart. Yeah, and it's so important to understand this. These fears are psychological. They are absolutely not trivial. They're actually deep psychological responses to what is, let's be honest, a really unnatural situation. Human beings are wired for physical presence, for closeness. So when that's gone, it can trigger some very real anxiety about the stability of the whole relationship. And if you've been there, you know exactly what these fears feel like. They're the kind of things that keep you up at night. You start wondering, is someone else going to take my place? Someone who's actually there? Or am I just becoming an afterthought in their life? And the big one, what if one day they just go silent? What if the messages just stop? These are incredibly powerful anxieties, and they absolutely thrive in that emotional distance created by technology. Okay, so if technology is failing us and fear is creeping in, what's left? What's supposed to hold everything together? This brings us to a really critical turning point in any long-distance relationship. It's a pivot. It's the moment when the focus has to shift away from trying to feel love every single day and toward the conscious, deliberate act of trust. And here's such a crucial insight. Love doesn't lessen. The situation just changes. It's not that you love each other any less. Of course not. The love is still there, 100%. It's the situation that's different. And this new situation, it demands something more than just passively feeling connected. It demands an active, conscious belief in that connection. It is a fundamental shift in the entire operating system of the relationship. So, how on earth do you make that shift? How do you navigate this emotional minefield? Well, it's definitely not a simple checklist. It's a tough, ongoing process. But it seems to start with just acknowledging the pain. You got to admit, hey, this distance sucks, and this digital disconnect is real, and it hurts. Then, right in the middle of all that frustration, you have to intentionally remind yourself that the love is still there. That hasn't gone anywhere. And finally, and this is the hardest part, you have to make a conscious, active choice to trust. Trust stops being a feeling you wait for and it becomes a decision you make every single day. You choose to believe in the connection even when a screen is making it impossible to feel.
And that's really the core takeaway here. At the end of the day, trust becomes the bridge when technology just isn't enough. I mean, technology is an amazing tool, but it's imperfect. It can't send a hug. It can't transmit the simple, quiet comfort of just being in the same room with someone. So when our tech inevitably fails to close that emotional gap, and it will, trust has to become the actual bridge. And it's not some passive, flimsy thing, it's an active construction project. A bridge you have to consciously decide to build and then rebuild over and over again.
Which brings us to one last really big question to leave you with. When all those daily feelings of connection get lost in digital translation, is trust enough? Is that conscious choice to trust on its own really enough to sustain two hearts until they can finally be in the same place again? That's a heavy one, and I think it's a question that only the people living through it can truly answer. Thanks for digging into this with us today.